So there is still a British Israeli hostage being held by Hamas in Gaza. And I have to say that most people in Britain won't have even heard of her name, Emily Damari. Okay? This should be something. I imagine if this happened, a Brit was taken hostage in another part of the world, their names would be well known. But because it's in Israel, because it's the Jews, it seems not. Now, the disturbing part of this is the British government's complicity in, well, really just aiding those forces against Israel. And showing on the one hand, yeah, we care for the hostages and we support Israel's right to defend herself, but then regularly undermining her and showing two faces, basically. I want to show you a clip first, and then we'll talk a bit more about the British government. This is Nigel Farage, who basically savages the British government's approach to this and met with the mother of Emily Damari. Nigel Farage is the leader of one of the main British political parties. For those of you who aren't British, if you're in Britain, you'll most likely know who he is. If you're not, many Americans will actually know him because he's quite involved in American politics from time to time as well. But have a watch of his message because it says a lot.
I met today in the House of Commons with Mandy Damari. You can see the pictures. Her daughter Emily was taken on the 7th of October by Hamas when they invaded Israel. Her dog was killed. She was taken into captivity. She's not been heard of for months. We hope and pray that she's still alive. But here's the incredible thing. Almost no one in Britain knows that we still have a British citizen being held captive. The government say nothing. Incredibly, yesterday, the Foreign Secretary, David Lammy, met Mandy, had a photograph, arm round her, then put out on social media a plea for humanitarian assistance in Gaza with not a mention of the hostages or Emily at all. This government...
That, by the way, I can only conclude that's intentional. That's like, okay, I've done my bit for the hostage so I don't look bad or whatever, but now I'm going to appease the other side before they get too mad that I would have in any way supported the Israeli Jewish hostages. That I have to conclude that was intentional.
Ian, no doubt about it, has written off the Jewish population. They're not interested. You know why? There aren't enough of them, and they're losing votes to hardline Islamist candidates, and so they're pandering to Hamas and the pro-Gaza side of the argument. The job of a British government isn't just to defend our territory, it's to stand up for our citizens. Years ago, a man called Don Pacifico, he was a British citizen of Portuguese descent. He was Jewish, and there he was in Athens when a mob attacked his house. Lord Palmerston, who was our Prime Minister, advised him to go to the Greek government and ask for damages. They refused. Do you know what Palmerston did? He sent the Royal Navy. They blockaded Athens with the threat of shelling it so that right was done by a British citizen. That's how we used to do things in this country. It was called gunbloat diplomacy. We did it to defend our people. And today we have a British citizen being held by these savages and the government appears not to even care less. I hope that you do. Yet Donald Trump, the US president, does care about the hostages and says they'll be held to pay if they're not released before he gets inaugurated on January the 20th. It takes an American president to stand up for a British citizen because our government, frankly, can't be bothered.
Wow. And look, I have to say, whatever your views are of Farage and his politics, his views, whatever, because I know there'll be people watching this who are from across the political spectrum, that's fine. I'm concerned with the specific issue he's talking about here and the words he's saying, and I don't see how one could object to anything that he's saying here. And the government, the British government, have shown basically a willingness to side with those who are seeking to undermine Israel. They've shown a total lack of moral clarity. You know, there's actually quite a bit more to this story. Emily Damari's mother, Mandy Damari, spoke at the Labour Friends of Israel. Labour Party is the governing party in the UK, of which Prime Minister Keir Starmer is the leader. And she spoke at the event. And I want you to listen to what she said. Okay, this is a report in the Jewish Chronicle, and I also want to get a picture of her so you can see it. Let's just get it up. This is a picture of Mandy speaking at the Labour Friends of Israel event. So there she is. Okay, so this is the story. The mother of British hostage Emily Damari told Labour Friends of Israel annual lunch that the UK's vote at the UN for an unconditional ceasefire in Gaza that wasn't tied to the release of hostages broke her heart. Can you imagine? It's just, it's of course she's right for her heart to be broken, but it's so sickening that the government would propose such a thing. Damari said, since October 7th, my days are one long nightmare I may never wake up from. She asked those present to think about the awful conditions her 28-year-old who was kidnapped by Hamas from Kibbutz Kfar Aza on October 7th. She said she said, with mental and physical scarring that may never heal, clothed in dirty rags, lice in her hair, probably still in pain from the gunshot wounds in her hand and leg that were not treated properly, shivering, starving, dehydrated, ghostly pale. Her breathing slow, a bucket for a toilet, impossible to get away from the stench, watched over by people who want to murder or rape her, terrified in every waking moment and too scared to fall asleep, fighting to stay alive minute after minute, month after month, 423 days with no end in sight. She's in hell. Damari thanked Prime Minister Starmer and Foreign Secretary for raising her daughter's plight, but added that nothing that has been tried so far has really made any difference to help secure Emily's release and that of other hostages. And she went on to criticise the government for voting for a United Nations Security Council resolution that called for a ceasefire in Gaza, in which she said would leave Emily and the other hostages in the hands of Hamas, giving them no incentive to ever release them. She said, that vote shocked me and it broke my heart. Nobody is more supportive of peace than I am, nobody. But there'll be no peace until Emily and all the hostages are brought home. Those who are alive should be returned to their families, and those who are dead returned for respectful burial. The resolution, which was debated on November 20th, was rejected following a veto by the United States, whose representative said they could not back a resolution for an immediate could not back a resolution for an immediate ceasefire unless it was explicitly tied to the release of hostages held by Hamas, another Palestinian terrorist organization. Starmer, who was a keynote speaker at the event, addressed Damari's criticism and said, I want to be absolutely clear on the UN Security Council resolution. The policy of this government towards a ceasefire has not changed. There is no ceasefire worthy of the name, which does not, as item number 1, include the return of all the hostages. That is what we're working for day and night. So Starmer's saying that, but of course, the problem is that they were calling for an unconditional ceasefire, which is what she's referring to. And so I think that, accompanied with what we saw as the Foreign Secretary David Lammy's tweet, let's just get that up so we can see that again. Have a look at this. So just imagine, just a few hours after taking a photo with Emily Damari, he posts this. Together, I have written with the Israeli government to urge action with the unacceptable humanitarian situation in Gaza. Israel must implement UN's winter plan now, send equipment to guard against cold and flooding, give access to fuel, repair vital infrastructure, and get aid in. Take a look at this, okay? David Lammy sat next to Mandy Damari at lunch, hugged her and said he was a Tottenham fan like her hostage daughter Emily, heard her ask for our government to demand humanitarian aid to the hostages. He heard her ask for a simple proof of life. And then this is what he wrote. Look, this is what he puts the tweet straight afterwards, literally hours afterwards. So, do you understand how there was no tweet? I'm looking at his Twitter. I cannot find a tweet of him saying, I met with Damari and raising her cause and issue. Nope. The only thing he can tweet afterwards, that photo was not something that he posted on his Twitter account. So all we have there is just instead him saying, oh gosh, I took a photo with the mother of an Israeli, Jewish, British hostage. Well, I better quickly appease the other side. This is the problem. The problem of the British government is that they are trying to play politics, dance to both sides, appease people who simply have a frankly evil agenda. And it doesn't really work. you can't say with one hand, well, no, we do support Israel's right to defend itself and get back the hostages, but they say that what Israel's doing is genocide because the British government said we'll follow the rulings of the International Criminal Court, which is shown to be biased, corrupt, all these things, completely morally vacuous. So whether it's on that, whether it's indulging in all these kind of anti-Israel narratives, unfortunately, you can't really stand in the middle of the road on these kinds of issues. You get hit by both sides. You can't be a little bit pregnant. You're either one or the other. You either support Israel and what Israel needs to do, or you indulge in the narrative of the anti-Israel side, which is entirely based on lies, from the claim of genocide, when Israel's shown more military precision than has ever been shown in the history of modern urban warfare, whether it's the notion that Israel somehow has some kind of original sin of existing and displacing the Arabs, when of course any displacement that occurred was primarily driven by an Arab desire to annihilate the Jewish state, and Israel responded in kind to that annihilationist strategy. Most of the displacement, by the way, occurred because Arab leaders told them to leave. Leave once we kill the Jews, then you can come back. But either way, there's too much trying to appease the anti-Israel side, and as a result, total lack of moral clarity. And maybe they even believe it. Maybe they believe it. The anti-Israel narrative. It is really sad to see the state of affairs in Britain and the British government at the moment. I have very little confidence in their ability to show much moral clarity. And I think we need a return to sanity. And frankly, what Farage said, I really can't see how one could disagree with that. There needs to be, or there should be, exactly as President-elect Trump said, the only thing that should be doing now is not talking about ceasefire and all the problems with, Israel and your list of complaints. No. If you really want to be morally fair, supporter of Israel, the only thing you should be saying is there needs to be utter victory for Israel. They need to utterly crush Hamas and recover as many of the hostages as they can, but also primarily need to make sure the threat of Hamas is gone forever and do whatever they need to do in order to achieve that end. And we should be supporting Israel fully in that mission. And the only way you try to negotiate with Hamas is pressure alone. That's what Trump did. He said, if you don't do this, there'll be hell to pay. Not negotiation, not we're gonna, if you give us the hostages, then we'll trade some Palestinian Arab murderers in return from prisons. No. I think very simply, peace through strength has to be the approach. But in order to have peace through strength, you need to first understand the truth. And I'm not sure if the leaders of the British government at the moment really have a good grasp of the truth, the moral truth. So you only get strength that gives peace if you have that moral clarity. So that's the number one thing that needs to happen. And that's the purpose of JTV, to spread that moral clarity and factual clarity to those who are willing to listen. If you made it to this point in the video, that probably means that you appreciate the work we're doing at JTV to spread the truth about Israel and create positive associations with Jews, Judaism, and Israel for the whole world, both Jews and non-Jews, through the power of social media. And I really want to start to take things to the next level now to accelerate our growth so we can really compete with the anti-Israel online media equivalents. We're having a really big impact online already, but there's so much more that we can do. So I've got a plan. Plan is, let's start doing documentaries, animated content, get other presenters doing shows like me, and that means we'll just accelerate the growth of this. And the question is, can you help partner with us in making that happen? On December the 15th, we're going to be doing a crowdfunding campaign to fund this vision to accelerate our growth. Would you partner with us in spreading the truth to the entire world through the power of the internet, through the power of YouTube? If you'd be up for helping with this campaign, we've now gone live. We're going to, as I say, the campaign officially launches on December the 15th, but you can actually start contributing and donating now. So if you appreciate what we're doing, if you want to partner with us in scaling JTV, in helping us make this vision come to reality, please click on the donate link in the video description of this video. And please contribute whatever you can. Please share it with your family and friends and contacts. And you can also, by the way, if you wish to, there's an option to create a team, which means you have your own mini fundraiser page, which has your own link, and there's certain prizes we're offering for people who can raise certain amounts. But the point of this all, above anything else and above any prizes or anything like that, the real prize is to become a partner with us in transforming the world and sharing the truth, which I believe really is the call of the hour. So if you really appreciate what we're doing, if you want to help us accelerate our growth, click on the link to donate now to our campaign. I'd be so grateful for your support. Thank you so much.